careful of everybody's time, so I'm going to get rolling. There are some new faces here that I haven't seen before, so if you haven't seen me, I'm Ted Hanlon. I'm the chair of the Laramie County Democratic Party. And I have to have an agenda to be able to do all this. So at this point, I'm going to call the meeting to order. There's pizza in the back. I don't want to take any of it home, so y'all need to eat pizza. I was hoping for a big crowd, which we do have a pretty big crowd, so I got even extra pizza from the last time I ordered pizza, so you can't prove me wrong, right? You have to eat all the pizza. We also have t-shirts in the back. These are old t-shirts from a couple years ago, and we're trying to move the merch. So if you have $10, we'll get you a t-shirt. There's a t-shirt. Connie's holding one up. They're pretty nice.
We're ready for heart pins as well.
Oh, yes, and then we have heart pins. Somebody have a heart pin on? Because I only had room there. Oh, yeah. Rachel's got one. Freddie's got one back in the back. They're a little blue heart. They're kind of our little symbol that I'm a Democrat, which I kind of like. They're 2 for $5, 4 for $10. Bring us some money, we'll give you some pins, basically. I'd like it if everybody that was a Democrat in the county was wearing one, so I really would like to get those out there. One of the things that y'all know I've been doing ever since I started filling this role is we do our vision and mission every night before the meeting starts. So the vision is we see a county with a diversified economy, vibrant downtowns in every community, expanded health care, great public education, and an inclusive community with affordable housing and excellent public services. And then we have a very simple mission. I mean, this is the greatest thing. We have a simple mission. Elect Democrats. That's why we're here. If you wanted to, you could have picked up minutes in the back. I'll give you all a minute to look at the minutes, and then we'll have a vote to accept them. Mr. Jim Van Dyke back there in the back is filming all this stuff. So when I do the meeting minutes, I look back at his film. So it's pretty hard for me to screw him up too much. Thank you, Jim. And also on our YouTube channel, the meeting is always available on the YouTube channel. If you or someone you know wants to go back and watch a meeting, you can do that. One of the things that I'm proud of is that Heidi Kennedy, who's the county party chair in Campbell County, has never done anything like this before, and she thinks I have. So she watches our meetings every month just so she can get some ideas. I think that's pretty cool.
Hey Ted, could you remind people about the new format with the microphone?
Oh yes, so we have a mic. If anybody wants to make a comment, just raise your hand and I'll get you a mic. So.
And try to be up there.
And Jim would really like it if you were up here so he can film you. So if you don't mind coming up, that would be great. Don't be shy. Well, I mean, you're pretty outstanding people anyway, and have a lot of gumption, or you wouldn't be Democrats in Laramie County. So I have no problem thinking that you're going to come up and get on the mic. Well, that's probably a minute to look at the minutes. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, they're approved. So the next thing on our agenda always is the treasurer's report, and that's up to Mr. Cromley, our treasurer, Dave Cromley. So we'll let him go with that.
So I understand rating last week's pizza, is that right?
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a comedian. Dave. Yeah, this is a 2-year period, 25 and 26. So this goes from January, starting 94.66 in January of 25. The income from last month, reported last month, was 13,473. This month's the income or the actual donations, 533. Contest every race, $600. That's $200 a month paid quarterly. The last month's meeting was $130. We got 2 nice checks. Actually, they are accompanied by nice letters also, but donations from the mailbox, 550, 2 of them for $550. 1813 total. So the total for the 2 years, income is $15,286. The expenses reported last month was $6,047. Our expenses this month is a $93 for the website, $84 for the storage unit, $275 for the office rent. Total this month is $453. For the total for the 2-year period, expenses $6,500. The ending balance $18,251. That sounds like a lot, but of course we're getting into the second year and we're going to use the money for the campaigns. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Dave. That's, let me see if I can get this right in a parliamentary sense. I always mess this up. I'm going to say, unless somebody has an objection, we're going to accept the minutes pending audit.
That was treasurer's report. Accepted minutes.
Treasurer's report. Very good, Jim. Yeah, see, I knew I'd get it wrong. I knew I'd get it wrong.
Should I go up to the mic for that?
Okay, so the next thing on my agenda is to discuss the flock camera petition a little bit. We got interested in the flock cameras basically through our state committee man, Eddie Mendez, who brought the cameras up and said he was not particularly sure they were a good idea. I did some research, and the ACLU in Wyoming is very much opposed to flock cameras. And so I started doing even more research. So I've done the research, as they say on the internet. Does everybody know what a flock camera is? Or should I tell everybody real quickly?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 23 of these little cameras in Cheyenne. Well, Connie just corrected me now, we have 24. So they're a little, if you go to an intersection and you see the big white traffic control cameras, that's not what we're talking about. It's a little black camera with a little black solar panel on it. And what it's doing is it's taking a picture, they say, of a license plate. What it's doing is it's taking a picture of the back of your car. And it's a pretty darn good picture of the back of your car. So it can look in the car, too, if it wants to. And the pictures I've seen actually were pictures that our police department took to show people what they are. So it's all pictures of police cars. But you see, I can tell it's a police car. I can read the license plate on the police car. So they're doing all that stuff. Then they use a pretty sophisticated computer program involving AI, which we all know how reliable that is. And they basically track you through town. So when you're coming into town, when Brenda Little is coming into town, when she goes up Yellowstone and she crosses the intersection with Del Range, it takes her picture. And it takes your picture all the way through town. There's only 23 of them, but we got a pretty little town, right? So it pretty well tracks you through there. And it then can be used by the police department to look for people that are stealing cars or something like that. But the bottom line is, they're taking data on everybody. And if you knew somebody was following you through town and putting your data on this private database somewhere that we really don't have any control over, if they were doing that, you'd be freaked out. And that's exactly what these cameras are doing. They're pretty freaky. And so one of the things I thought I could do as a Democrat in Laramie County is start a petition to have the cameras taken down, which I did. And so currently we have 775 signatures on that petition, which for Wyoming I think is pretty good to have that many signatures on a petition. Yes?
Who has access to those cameras? Who sees?
So that's a great question. So every member of our Cheyenne Police Department has access. If they're in some sort of a joint task force agreement with a federal agency, then the federal agency has access to all that. As soon as one federal agency gets it, then the whole deal where they say the data is only saved for 30 days, it's gone if it ends up in a federal database. Federal database, as far as I can tell, based on the research I've done, they only keep the data for 70 years, but they'll discard it after that. Yes, ma'am.
What data are they collecting?
So they're collecting your pictures all the way through town, and also
Picture of my car?
a picture of your car, and they're also collecting, the route that your car took. That's sort of the thing about these. It's not often reported because people would think we'd freak out if we knew it, right? And we would. But they have data about your route. They're taking.
It's all tied to your license plate number.
It's all tied to your license plate number and.
Live, all that.
Yeah, and it's all in license plate number and your car type and all that sort of thing, and right down to your bumper stickers. It can read the bumper stickers on your car. So if you have bumper stickers for for Kamala or something like that, that might be useful to somebody someday, right? And I guess we'd just rather that they didn't have that information. I would rather they didn't have that information. So what I'm going to do, if you haven't signed the petition, you go ahead, Dave.
I was wondering what a flock camera was, and it helped. The name Flock comes from the company name.
Right. It's Flock. Flock is the company. There's a lot of people that make these license plate readers. We happen to use Flock, but since they're so ubiquitous, Flock is becoming kind of like calling tissue a Kleenex. But go ahead.
Do they have some mounted mobily on cars?
So our police department says the ones mounted mobily on cars are not theirs, but we know our own Barb Miller took pictures of the ones that are mounted on cars, and they are license plate readers mounted on cars, somebody's car, not the Cheyenne Police Department, somebody's car.
Can I speak?
Sure. Yeah, if you would like.
To answer the question about the ones where you see they're mounted on cars, I've found out that people who trace cars that need repossessed can get data from the Flock system. When they get alert that a certain license plate has been seen, then they send somebody out with all those cameras, and the cameras are looking for it so the driver doesn't have to be distracted looking for it.
Oh, that's handy.
Is it working? Okay.
So the next steps, I'm going to, on the 23rd, there's a city council meeting, 23rd of February. I'm going to go to the city council meeting. At the end of the city council meeting, there's always time for public comment. In the public comment period, I'm going to present them our petition, which is a petition to ask them to take the cameras down. Go ahead, John.
It seems listening to you that the pictures are pretty good quality pictures.
Oh, yes. The pictures are really high quality. And I at this point, I have seen pictures, and they're really good pictures.
They can look inside
So
your car and
this
see
is
your
my concern then becomes, if they're this intrusive now, and the quality of picture is that good, then they're going to take a picture of me getting out of my car, and then I start worrying, not to be paranoid, but I know that ICE is starting to use facial recognition with their phones. Yeah. I see that being the next step.
Well, if you really want to get paranoid, if you're not paranoid enough already, Flock signed an agreement with Ring Doorbell in October. Yeah. And so if they want to keep following you, the police department can go around to people's houses and say, would you mind if we looked at your, they do have to ask that, but would you mind if we looked at your Ring Doorbell footage? And they can get all the Ring Doorbell footage. So they can literally follow you into your house.
Well, there was a thing in the Super Bowl, commercial about finding your dogs, like a lost pet.
Okay, so they don't even have to ask.
It's the same thing. And they can follow people and track people using the same technology they would use to track your pet. Yep. They just use the Ring Doorbell cameras and they try to follow pets around one by one. That's the same thing as these.
Supposedly, that's
these
their
Flock cameras.
So that's my plan on Flock cameras. Any more questions? I'll go. You've got a question. Go ahead.
I do. I think I read there was another organization in Cheyenne that is petitioning this also,
Yes.
I think there is, yes.
but I don't remember who.
Do you remember who?
I think it's that Scigliano.
Yeah, I think it is. So it's Scigliano, which basically, this is very weird. This is not going to happen very often in politics, but the Moms for Liberty, the Freedom Caucus, and the Laramie County Democratic Party would all like to get these cameras removed. So it seems like there's probably not much room to stand on the other side of this issue.
And ACLU as well.
Yeah, ACLU is also opposed to this. When have those groups ever come together on anything?
Administrative order.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, what is their justification finding stolen vehicles, Amber Alerts, is that it?
Yeah, finding stolen vehicles and things like that. And they do work. That's part of the problem. They really work well. Millward?
Yeah, for those of you who decide to go to the city council meeting or thinking of testifying, I've heard one city councilman who was at that DFLOC event claim that this was all done in the light of day, following normal public process. And it's important for you all to know that it really wasn't. When you go back to and look at the city council meetings, the two of them that had to do with this vote being passed by the city council, in 2024, the item was on the consent agenda, which means unless someone in the city council asks for a consent agenda item to be removed, it's not going to be discussed, and there's no opportunity for public input whatsoever. So the first meeting, they said, we're going to refer this to the finance committee. And when it came back the next meeting, it was on the consent agenda for approval. So in an actual full city council meeting, there was no opportunity for the public to be aware of this or to speak on it. Unless you went to these this finance committee meeting, and these smaller meetings are very obscure. And I don't know who was there. This was not done in the light of day, and it's disingenuous of them to claim that it was. In other communities like Jackson, the press has reported on these. There's been full public disclosure. The debate has happened in the light of day. I think our city council has just a little bit of a Fourth Amendment tone deafness. And I think the warrant issue is another example of that.
And we, yeah.
Encourage people to go and say, you know, this is not acceptable. You need to be aware of these concerns and let the people talk.
I agree. I think that's absolutely true, and I think that's a really perceptive comment you made about being tone deaf on the Fourth Amendment. I think one of the things that I asked one of our city councilmen is, do you this was in terms of the warrants, do you represent the fire department or the people of Ward 1? Go ahead, Matt.
So my kind of bringing this back around to the practical part of this. This sounds like some things that could be a really good impetus for somebody to run against someone.
Absolutely. That's. I was just. You took the words right out of my mouth. So what I was going to say, and I've said it in this meeting before, my safety man said this 20 years ago out at Coastal when we were trying to do a culture change out there. He said, Ted, you have to remember, if you can't change the people, change the people. And that's my job. So yes, it is very good information for people to run on.
I'll just add a couple things. So there's no substantial data that says block cameras are actually fighting more crime. So whether you commit a crime or not, these millions of pieces of data they're collecting on you, and you're not a criminal, you're not suspected. So what these cameras are doing is they're tracking every single person, whether we're a criminal or not. They say there's data connected through every state through these, right? And we saw that our Secretary of State sold out our data very easily. So we don't have control over that. So you've committed no crime, they still have your data, whether you like it or not. And there is no evidence that these are even deterring more crime. So what are they doing with it? This is just overreach.
And yeah, it is. And
Is this the sledgehammer trying to swat a fly?
What's that?
Is this a sledgehammer trying to swat a fly?
Well, yes. I think Flock's got really good salesmen, Tom, and I think they came in and they told the police department how they could do this force multiplier, and it would be a really good thing. And I know our police chief has used these things in like Kansas City for years and years. We're not Kansas City. We're Cheyenne, Wyoming, and we're all neighbors, right? And the way to do better policing in Cheyenne is to do more community policing, involve all of the community in the policing. That's been proven to work. To Rachel's point, that's been proven to work. Matt's going to say something about Camden, New Jersey, I bet, because that's one of the...
I am. Okay, community policing is proven to work in some of the most dangerous cities in the country. And the example I give is Camden, New Jersey, all the time, right? That was not a place you wanted to be anywhere near past nighttime. And they've actually improved their crime rates significantly. I don't have a number, but again, another proactive issue that somebody could run on. and I think I think they're just giving, the city council is just giving you fodder for campaigns every single time they sit down together.
That's absolutely true.
And Denver is trying to eliminate them.
Right.
How many cameras do we have in this?
24 now, according to Connie. I think we got one more, 24.
24.
But their lease is up, I believe, at the end of the year?
Well,
So there's-
no, it's a subscription-based program, $2,500 per camera per year.
Well, I thought, didn't Dr. Aldridge or Michelle Aldridge talk about how,
Yeah, their contract was for 2 years, and we finished 1 year.
But it'd be sure easy to take them down, wouldn't it? They come down really easy.
Paying for them?
Yeah,
43,000?
Oh, okay.
yeah.
See, I thought it was, I think I heard it was that Flock is basically a data broker company.
No,
They
it's,
let the city have the data free.
no, the city paid $143,000 for the 2-year contract for the cameras and the data collection. Like, I went through, I used to do solar panels, so I went through and figured out what the cameras and the solar panels cost. So that's like peanuts. What they're mostly paying for is the data collection. If you don't think they're data collecting, if all they wanted was a camera, it would have costed a lot less than $143,000, right?
Go to dflock.org. It'll show you where those 24 cameras are and if you're living by one. If you drive by one.
Anything else on Flock? I want.
On the bright side, I understand there's somebody trying to push through legislation to get rid of the front license plate.
Oh, really? That's a good idea.
That'll cut them in half.
Yeah.
I'm told you don't need a front license plate
If your
anymore.
vehicle doesn't.
There's some conditions on it.
If your car has it, if it isn't equipped.
Yeah, there's some cars.
They're trying to do away with it all.
Look at most states, they don't have them anymore. Quaint little Wyoming, we're one of the last places to have license plates front and back, but I kind of like it. Okay, I'm going to move on, I guess, y'all. Stay tuned. If you know somebody that hasn't signed the petition, get them to go in and sign it. I'd really appreciate that. It just gives me gravitas when I go down there, right? More signatures I have on the petition when I present it.
Is there any place to sign that in person?
No.
I have some neighbors that don't have it.
Well, you can call it up on your phone and just have them do it right there on the phone. Somebody asked me that at the legislative town hall last week, and that was my suggestion. Just call it up on the phone and have them fill it out right there on the phone, and it'll.
On my phone.
Yeah, on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Do you have a time when you're going to be delivering this petition?
Well, it's the city council meeting on the 23rd of February. And it'll be at the end, I presume. I'm so inexperienced at all of this. I don't know the protocol, but I presume they ask for public comment at the end. So there's a whole bunch of other things going on that are worth talking about. The phone bank is kind of on hold right now. We're trying to get ready to do a bunch of text broadcasting instead of the phone bank. The phone bank was going pretty slow. People like me don't really like to make telephone calls or take telephone calls, so there's a lot of people who weren't getting through, and this text banking that we can do is very cool. This is through this Wyoming Democratic Party. I mentioned at the last meeting that they told me they would charge me $20 a month no matter how much I used it, and I said, no matter how much I use it. So I've got a bunch of uses for it that I'm going to tell you about right now. One is to finish the text broadcast and the phone bank. What we were doing is we were trying to engage Democrats. We were reaching out to people in the community that are Democrats and just saying, thanks for being a Democrat, so that they will at least know that we exist. And Connie would say, Connie's our pro phone banker, and we got some people that were happy that we called.
Got some folks here.
The text broadcast. Did anybody get a text from me yesterday talking about this meeting? Yeah. So I'm trying to text everybody right before the meeting, just so everybody knows. If you're not on the text list and want to be on the text list, there's about 77 names on it now. I'd be happy to add more. Again, it's one click of a button. So if I had 777, that would be just as easy for me.
I'm not very tech savvy at all. When I said, yes, I'm coming to the meeting, I scrolled down and it said, yes, I'm coming to everything.
Oh, I don't know how that happened. I'm not very tech savvy either, but I'll check. I'll figure it out. So
At least you'll be getting more pizza.
the next, so we're going to finish reaching out to the Democrats in the community with a text broadcast. The next one that I'm really excited about is I've got a text group I'm going to reach out to there's 3 people in this text group, and this is the amazing things you can do with data, right? It's people who have self-identified as rhinos, or people that switched to the Republican Party in 2018, or people that switched to the Republican Party in 2022. All times when people were switching to try to get somebody to win, which of course doesn't work, but they tried. I'm reaching out to all of those folks with a text, asking them if they would think about coming to the Democratic Party. It turns out in Laramie County there's 1,940 of them.
What about independents? There's a big block of independents.
Oh, yeah, we got to reach out to independents too, John, and you're right, it's a big block, and here's an interesting thing about the block of independents. You can go almost precinct by precinct in Laramie County, and if there's 800 Democrats in the precinct, there's 800 independents. If there's 500 Democrats in this precinct, there's also 500 independents. It's almost exactly the same number in every precinct, which I find interesting, but we really need their votes, so we do really have to start reaching out to them. That's kind of our next step. First step was go after the Democrats, engage them. Next steps, go after independents. So talking about engaging Democrats, Lindsay, do you think you can fix this so we can show everybody, how many people were in here in the meeting when I took everybody's picture so I could do an ad? So I've got the ad. I'm going to show you what's that? So Butch Clark put this ad together. All of you contributed to it.
Being a Democrat in Laramie County can feel kind of lonely, but there are more of us than you might think. A lot more. Find your people. Visit LaramieCountyDemocrats.org.
Isn't that nice? That's really nice. Now I'll tell you the exciting stuff about that.
It was a small meeting.
There's a company called Target Smart, again, that works with the Wyoming Democratic Party, that puts these ads on basically every platform except Facebook and Instagram. So has anybody seen this ad on your computer in the last couple of days? Because for a little over 24 hours, we've been running the ad. And it's one that'll show up there's a lot of computer games it'll show up on. There's like Hulu, it'll show up if you're watching Hulu. It'll show up if you're just surfing the internet. In the 24 hours since we started running it, we've had 1,640 impressions on the ad. I think that's pretty good. That's pretty darn exciting. Here's another really exciting number to me. 336 of those people were people who, according to Target Smart, lean Democratic but are not registered to vote.
Oh, yeah.
So that's really, I think, very exciting. And then the final really exciting part of this, I had been looking into this digital advertising for a long time. And what I'd looked into before was very expensive. To do that little ad that Butch put together for us out of the kindness of his heart, I could spend $1,500 with a digital advertising company and make the same ad. So we saved all that money, so that's pretty good. So the other thing is these companies, these big ad companies, charge you money to put it out in the world. And that is also the research that I have done with these people. One of them came and talked to us in the new Democratic office. It's thousands of dollars. They want thousands of dollars. So far on this ad, to show it to 1,600 people, and I only get charged when somebody clicks on it. And so far, for those 1,640 clicks, I've spent $22.35. Yeah.
Are these ads going to a certain region?
So we, geofenced them, and we geofence. But this is more sophisticated, really, than geofencing, because geofencing really is just geographic. So it's fenced to Laramie County. It's only going to people who have IP addresses in Laramie County. It's only going to people who are strong Democrats, or unregistered people that lean Democratic, by however Target Smart figured that out.
But not the independents?
Not the independents in this case, but I can play with that. This was our test case. This was our.
That's what I was going to ask you. How do they target?
I don't know. Probably with some flock camera data.
So there are a couple different ways that they do that. And it's kind of along the same lines, unfortunately. But if you think about it, what websites you visit, what news sources you get, right? What news sources you seek, all right? CNN, Fox News, okay, that's pretty easy. But there's some ones right in the middle that lean one way, lean independent, lean, right down the middle. So there's a lot of things that they put together that do that, and then these companies, what they call crosstab, which means, okay, you've got people that watch, Bridgerton mixed with people that read USA Today. Okay, cool, so that's a subset. So they'll target that specifically. So that when Bridgerton's on Netflix, that ad, if that's who it's targeted towards, is going to end up in one of the 15-second commercial slots that you get when you watch Bridgerton. That's how they do it.
So this is exciting for us, right, as a county party, to do ads like this and get people to come back into the fold. Really, really exciting for our candidates. Really, really exciting for people who want to run for office. Because we can do this. We have a team of people that can do this. And we can broadcast it fairly cheaply. I'm right now working to get all verified on Facebook. If anybody's ever done that with a political thing on Facebook, you know how arduous that can be. And we've worked very hard as a Laramie County Democratic Party to make sure that's as difficult as it could possibly be, because we don't use the same name twice. We have one name registered with the Secretary of State, different name on our bank account, and this is the information that Facebook's trying to use to verify me. So we're trying to straighten that out too. But we will get there before our candidates need us, I promise that. Anyway, very exciting. I think it's really cool. I think it's really going to be the future of campaigning in Laramie County, and I think we've got the team to do it, which it excites the heck out of me. And both Mimi and John have talked about the independents, and those are really important groups, guys. I know that. First thing I got to get is the Democrats who have just decided over the last couple of years that they're not even going to show up to vote because it doesn't matter. Lots of people who have talked to me have said that they believe they lost because the Democratic base didn't turn out. I know that when I ran, I didn't really look at the statistics that much after I ran. I was pretty depressed. But I do know that people that came up to me on the street and said, "Ted, I wish you'd have won. I voted for you," were all Republicans. I never had a Democrat come up and tell me that. I do think Democrats being disengaged is a big problem. And we're going to get them back. That's our first goal. Independence, our second goal. Registering people to vote, that's our third goal. So events is the next thing on my agenda, and I'm only 4 minutes behind. Well, 9 minutes behind. If you went to the legislative town hall the other night, I think you'd have to say it was a pretty successful event. We owe a lot to Daniel Singh because he went a long way toward making it successful. If he hadn't showed up, we would have just been asking empty chairs questions. So it was nice that he was there. Not that I believe in anything that he stands for, but he had courage to come to the meeting, and I'll give him that. So what else is coming up? So this Sunday is the legislative reception. Mary just texted me a few minutes before this meeting and had a whole list of legislators who are actually going to show up.
Nice. Wow.
Well, there's a couple legislators I think you had on your list. So, yeah, the community's coming for sure. So it'll be nice for us. Hopefully a legislator will show up. I did get an email from Trey Sherwood, who is from Albany County today, and she said, "See you there." So she's at least coming.
She might bring cupcakes.
We don't have dessert on the agenda, so that'd be good.
Ted, you might announce where it's at, what.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good point. So, legislative reception in the basement of Sanford's at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. We picked Sunday, not because I'm cruel and wanted people to ruin their Sunday going to a legislative reception, but because every other night of the week the legislators have committee meetings, and there was no chance any legislators would be coming any other night but Sunday. So we did it Sunday, so hopefully somebody will show up. And if Trey's our one legislator, well, one's better than none, right?
Is that on the phone? Is this on the phone? Did you send that to everybody? Like a message, just text message?
I'll send a text message. I haven't on it yet, but I will send a text message. I'll send a text message. That's a good idea. And if you all like the text messages, I'll start sending more of them to more people. It's a good way to get the word out.
Ted, do you have a Mobilize set up for this?
Yeah, you can go to Mobilize. There's an app called mobilize.us, and I'm trying to get all our events on that. One reason I'd like to get all our events on that is that every Democratic event in a pretty large area is always on that. So whatever anybody's looking for, they're going to find there. Like, for instance, the Circle, their protests and everything. If they give me the information in enough time, I make that into a Mobilize event so that if you want to go to a protest, you click on that, and then you see right beside it, oh, and the Laramie County Democratic Party is doing a legislative reception. You can click on that, too. Mary's getting indivisible on that, I hope. So the next event that we're going to have is going to be March 7th at 10 a.m. at LCCC Classroom 111-113. And that's going to be our county convention. There's really two purposes for that convention. One is to finalize the platform. So I will have a platform document that I'm working on. I'll get circulated out to people here pretty quick so that you can take a look at the platform. As we finalize the platform, one thing I want you to think about, we need to stay true to our principles, absolutely. We don't want to be so detailed that we give people a whole lot of information to attack our candidates with.
Ted, I think classroom 111 and 113 are in the CCI building.
Yes.
You need to say which, yeah. So there's lots of buildings out there with different classroom numbers. I think this is CCI.
And I'll make sure, and the last time I used a map for the legislative reception, I used a map of the campus and dropped a pin on the building that we had it in, so I'll do that so we can all find it.
Thank you.
The other thing that we're going to do at the county convention is we're going to pick delegates to the state convention. Now, you all are going to be overwhelmed by this number because I was. We get 57 delegates to the state convention.
Wait, out of our group?
Yeah, out of all the people that come to things. Yeah, there's 50 people in here tonight, I counted, which is a really great turnout. But we could send more people than we have here to the convention. So if you want to, even if you don't want to go to the convention, but you want to give us a name to use as a delegate, Lindsay could probably tell us for sure, but I think each person can carry 2 proxies. Is that right, Lindsay? So if we could so there's roughly 60. So if we could get 20 people that were actually going to go, but other people said they were going to be a delegate, so we can get their proxy, then we could cover the whole thing. Why do we want to do that? Because we want to influence the state of Wyoming Democratic Party as much as our county can, right? Because we're selfish, and we should be.
Do you have a date for that convention yet?
The county convention? Yeah. The county convention is March 7th at 10 a.m.
March 7th, okay. State convention?
State convention is June the 6th.
Where?
State convention's in Casper, and that's all we know at this point. I know Casper's a big town, but all we know right now is that it's going to be in Casper.
On June 6th?
On June 6th. That's our next big event. There's going to be, there's always more. Kathleen, did I forget anything?
I don't think so.
The other thing we want to do, Kathleen and Barb and Mimi and Connie and I have all talked about this, get a little bit more organization into our committees. So I've got some ideas for people to co-chair committees. I'm going to chair every committee just because when I was chairing committees a couple years ago and nobody in my position was showing up with me, I was kind of feeling like I didn't know what I was doing and I was lost, and so I'm always going to be there if I can. But sometimes I can't, and so having a co-chair is going to be good. So I'm going to get the word out on who will be co-chairs. I think Kathleen's already volunteered to be the co-chair of the events committee. Barb, did you say fundraising? Is that what you were interested in co-chairing?
On the spot or anything?
I never put people on the spot. That's just not my way.
It's my entire life.
Anyway, we'll get that out.
I need volunteers.
I'll get that out as soon as I can. The current platform can be found on our website, by the way. If you go to our website, you click on the little file cabinet down in the footer, and it gets you to all kinds of documentation, more documentation than you ever wanted. But one of the things it gets you to is the platform. And you can take a look at the current platform. The only difference between that platform and the one that we propose, we've worked on it a little bit. There's a lot of redundancy in the current platform. We're going to take all that out. If something appears in 3 different categories, it's only going to appear in one. We only have to say it once. And we're going to make it, I don't know if vague's the right word. I guess vague's the right word. Broad. We're going to make it broad areas, so we're not holding somebody to something that they can't possibly run on in Laramie County and win. So, let's see, what else? So I'm getting through this, Linz. I'll get to you in just a second. The newsletter sign-up went pretty well. I think we have just about 750 people signed up for our newsletter, which I think is pretty good. That's a pretty powerful group, and that's again, another group. Connie's got the QR code. If you're not signed up for the newsletter, you can just take a picture of that QR code, and you can sign up for the newsletter. That's pretty powerful, and I think we've used it for some of the state legislature stuff and so on, and it's pretty powerful that we can mobilize 750 people. Not everybody in the county can do that. So we're going to have to start working on voter registration. The weather's going to start getting nicer. I've never seen it rain in February in Cheyenne before. In case you were worried about global warming, don't worry about anything. But we talked a little bit about the voter registration pledge. I'm going to get that out in one of the newsletters too. And we need to make a door hanger for voter registration, and Rachel and some people are working on that. In the next week or two, we're going to start going out to people with this stuff.
Me first. One of the things we talked about in one of our meetings was having rotating people going to the city council meetings, to the legislature for different things. And
county commission and school board. I think this is a really good point, and it's really something to think about. To Millward's point, and are you still in here, Millward? Or, a lot of this stuff happens in the dark, and we only find out about it after it's already been made into a law, and now we have to fight something that's a law, where we could have found out about it when they were talking about making it a law, and somebody could have showed up and gone, what, are you stupid? And this is because they Zoom almost all these meetings. My idea on this, and if you all know somebody that would like to do this, I know some people that are homebound for one reason or another, and they would still like to help the Democratic Party. There's something they would like to do for the Democratic Party. It would be ideal if they would just watch the Zoom and make a little report for us.
Well, I think some of us showing up in person would be good for a visual.
Oh yeah, and definitely showing up in person if we know there's going to be something on the agenda that we want to say something about, for sure. But anyway, those meetings, we should, if you can, let me know. Chair at LaramieCountyDemocrats.org. Let me know if you'd like to go, and I'll get you set up. Any other new business before I get to our guest speaker? Go ahead, John.
Well, the voter registration thing. There's like a protest every day this coming week, right? There's something Monday, there's something Tuesday, which is a national one. We're going to be at Hageman's office. Then Friday, I think there's Wyoming, YPro, the pro-choice, that's probably going to have a pretty big turnout at the Capitol. Is there any way on, when we know there's going to be a larger turnout, that you could register people there?
Yes, I think we should do that. We've talked about that before. I think that's one of the purposes for protests, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, when you think about it, we're not protesting any of these people because we think we're going to change their mind, right? They're not. Our little protest isn't going to change the way they feel about anything. What it does is it brings us together as a community, which is very valuable. And if we can do things like register people to vote, that becomes very valuable. So, yeah, I think we probably... it's another...
I plan on doing that. And how do you do that?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we... I will get with me after the meeting if you want to be involved in this, and we'll get a meeting together and we'll make a plan for how you do it.
You need to notarize?
You have to be, so there's two things that you have to have that are difficult to do, but they're not insurmountable. You have to have a notary, you have to stamp it with your notary, and you have to have a color picture of the person's driver's license. Well, you can imagine at a protest how difficult that would be to do. But when I was doing this back in 21, I had a little solar panel, an inverter set up with a printer, so I could be anywhere, and I could get a picture of somebody's driver's license. So it's possible, but it's onerous. And that's one of the reasons, and you guys have to think about this too, and I want your opinion on this. I'm really in favor of a voter registration pledge rather than getting them to register to vote. And what the voter registration pledge is, you just on paper have them sign that they're going to go down and register to vote. And when they sign, they're going to give you their email and their cell phone number. Now you have some way to contact them. Even if we go through all the paperwork to register somebody to vote, once we give them the stuff, we can't mail it for them. That's illegal. So once we give them all the stuff, they've got to go mail it. And if they do something wrong, or if we did something wrong, the county clerk never gets back to us to tell us. They just aren't registered to vote. It's much better if you can go to the county clerk's office, which is why this pledge idea I like. Brenda worked with me a bunch when we were trying to register people to vote in 21. It was not very successful, right? I mean...
Well, we caught a few, but yeah.
It was a lot of time and not much.
So,
Yeah.
I'm from New Mexico originally, and like, thank God that's a blue state now. But so I've seen like people set up booths at like events that are well attended. Like, I'm Native American, and we have like feast days, and we have arts and crafts. They set up booths there to do the same thing, to do the pledge. Yeah, and it seems to be a really good turnout.
The pledge does?
Yeah, the pledge, yeah. So that way you get in contact and you can send them the voter information so they can hopefully go vote.
Right, and you can keep pestering them. You have their contact information so you can pester them, which I'm pretty good at.
You have the option of checking with Deborah Lee and seeing what they have scheduled and the League of Women Voters.
Oh, right.
We could put that on.
But one of the things that Deborah Lee promised me last fall is she's not going to do any voter registration events in 26 because they're busy putting together.
And you can register on the day of voting.
Right. Yeah, you can register even on the day of voting. It's just, you know, that's the hard way to do it. And also, as soon as you register as a Democrat, we can get in touch with you. We can help you with things. You know, that's the nice thing about registering as a Democrat. Go ahead, Rachel.
So just in full transparency, we cannot register anybody to vote.
Right.
Only the county clerk can do that. Transparency. We can provide voter registration information. We can do the pledge to votes. We can hand them the form. They can fill it out how they want. We cannot tell them how to fill it out, what to choose, anything like that. It has to be very nonpartisan. You have to know what you're doing, because as you know, if anything gets slipped up, right, we don't want to hurt anybody's chances. So we only provide voter registration information. Wyoming Independent Citizens Coalition does these in the high schools. They do that with the backing of the county clerk. They have a lot of information if anybody wants to know how to run a booth, how to run, you guys do it, but I'm just saying, we can't register anybody.
That's exactly right.
How do they do it in the high school?
So we go, yep, they bring the student, yep, always need volunteers. We have a couple notaries. We can generally explain what the process is. The concern is how much information do you want to give to somebody? I'm all about just giving the information. A lot of students, honestly, will pick unaffiliated or independents, which means they can't vote in the primaries. So it's really a lot of just awareness of what's on the registration form and just explaining generally like what these things mean, right? And so, and also you can register, somebody can register to vote even if they haven't turned 18, but will at the time of the elections. So, and we have a printer, we have, take a license plate, they fill it out, it's notarized. We give it to them, they have to put it in the envelope and they have to put it in the mail.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're not registering anybody to vote. I just want to make that very clear.
And that's how the events were. They weren't like one party or the other, just to get you to register so your voice can be heard. It wasn't like
Right.
I did it before, that's how it was, but I notarized forms there, so we can still do that.
Well, yeah, we can notarize the form for them so they can mail it in.
So then they mail it.
Yeah, but the pledge, to me, gets past so many problems. And I will tell you, when I had this conversation with Deborah Lee, who, by the way, for a Republican, is a very nice lady and has helped me with a bunch of stuff, and I will always speak highly of her. She really liked the pledge idea. That's the way she wanted to do it, because what she sees is so many missteps that can be between, they don't fill the form out right, they don't mail it. Your residency, all that stuff could be messed up. And so the pledge works because we can keep in touch with them until they go down to the clerk's office and register. The other thing about the registering to vote to keep in mind, and I probably ought to put this in the newsletter, we all think of going to the county clerk's office to register to vote. There's actually 5 places in the county you can register to vote. And one of them is at the town hall in Albin. I just mentioned that because if I was concerned that ICE might show up while I was trying to register to vote, I don't think they're going to show up at the town hall in Albin. So, yeah, I'm sure they couldn't. I put a windmill up for the high school there once, long ago. Anyway. Those are the things we have to work on until we have candidates. I put a bunch of information on what I would do if I was a candidate in the newsletter today. If you're thinking about being a candidate, take a look at that. The one thing I want, first of all, I want a candidate in every race. I really do. Secondly, when you run, whether you win or whether you lose, I want this act of running to be joyful. I want you to come away with it. I know so many people in the past few years have come away with it and they're just depressed and down. I was one of them. And it feels really awful. And I don't want it to be like that. I want to do this in a way that you get through the whole process and you had fun. And so I've got some advice in the newsletter tonight about how I would do that if I was going to be a candidate again. I'll probably be murdered before I become a candidate again.
Talking about voting, can we call the county clerk and ask if we're registered?
Yes, and I recommend that. I think that's a great idea, yes.
I doing it, but I didn't know if you could do it then.
Oh yes, absolutely. Call them and ask them, and they will tell you. And they would like you to do that, and I would like you to do that. I think that's a great idea. Everybody can do that. Because there's been several people I know that were real surprised when they called because they weren't registered to vote. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth doing. Go ahead.
Also, if you can call and ask them to mail the ballot to you guys.
Yeah.
I have a question. You said, when you're talking about the deadline to change your registration is May 13th, but you said that it doesn't really work.
Well, to change your registration to Republican? No, I think that's a terrible, in my view, that's a terrible idea. And I'm the most partisan person in the state of Wyoming. I better be. I'm the chair of the Democratic Party. But I give you, I give you Harriet Hageman as my fundamental, we lost all kinds of Democrats when she ran against Liz Cheney because Democrats thought they were going to swing to her side, swing to Republicans so that they could elect Cheney. I just looked these numbers up. Hageman got 114,000 votes in the primary. Liz Cheney got 43,000. So it's not going to work. But what it does do is it
Rallying the Republicans.
It rallies the Republicans and it destroys our little party. Then somebody like Lindsay's thinking about running, and she looks at the numbers, and there's no Democrats in Laramie County, so she doesn't run. So then the few Democrats that remain in Laramie County say, well, there's nobody to vote for. So they switch to the Republican Party, and we go into a death spiral, which we've been doing for some time. So yeah, I'm not a believer.
Do people because I've done that with the Hageman-Cheney vote, but I also went back and changed. Is there a problem that people don't go back and change?
There is a problem. There is a problem that they don't go back and change, and also we can't now until after the general election.
Right.
If you, but yes, that's that 1,940 people that I'm about to text. They are in the category of they switched and they never switched back. Go ahead, John.
I just want to jump on you saying something about it should be a joyful experience. Back in New York, when somebody asked me to run, and I told you I won't, and it's because of what I did in New York. And it was with the testing and the Common Core and the opt-out. And we had a guy that was just sneakier than Trump named Cuomo. And I did a lot of stuff, and it fried me. It fried me out, but I had a friend about 2 years later say, all that work you did it make any permanent change? Would you do it again? It didn't make permanent change, but at the time when I was in it, it mattered. And I looked him right in the eye and I said, you know what? I would do it all again. Thank God I had Heidi's support and my kids' support. Because at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It is. So, and if any of you choose to do that, you'll have my full support, whatever you can do, and probably everyone in this room. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do.
I will be very efficient with my comment. I know at this point it seems like it's a real uphill battle, and it is. Any person that tells you it's not is lying to you. But the fact of the matter is, you can only knock your opponent over if you hit them with body blows. And every single vote that you get, every single great performance that you put in, every single slate of new candidates starts to change the conversation. And that's why it's important to do it. And there are some people that I know that have been involved in this party for a long, long, long time that are still standing up there and still fighting for this party. And I think it's very important to have people come in because, number one, you need to give them a break. It's enough. They're tired, right? But number two, it's a bench. And I talked about that when I was here. It's very important to build a bench. And it's the only way that you can end up with Congress people and senators and things like that if you get people that are elected to lower offices.
Okay, y'all, I'm gonna let Lindsay talk for a minute if we can figure out the AV. She's going to tell us about effectively writing letters to the editor. Butch and I have worked on this a little bit, and I think we've been pretty effective. Lindsay's got some great ideas.
So for anyone who doesn't understand or doesn't know me or is curious why I'm calling from Dad, I'm Lindsay Hanlon. I'm the vice chair of the State Democratic Party. I was formerly the communications director for the Laramie County Party. And I am obviously Ted's daughter. So apple did not fall very far from the tree in this case. So I will be heading the platform committee for the state party. I'll be talking a lot more about that at the next state central committee meeting, which most of you luckily do not have to worry at all about because you don't have to come to an all-day Zoom on a Saturday. I did this to myself. But one of the big things I was looking at when I was elected vice chair is simplifying our county and our state platforms. I think over time we have developed platforms that are more like wish lists than they are like guidelines. and they should be a guideline. So, we'll have a platform and someone will say, well, what about this like really specific thing about, electric vehicles or about this policy? And then it ends up in it because, we're trying to connect to one another, we're trying to make sure everyone is feeling heard. But every time we are super specific like that, we are creating a point of pressure for our candidates, for ourselves, for our ability to memorize something that is the size of this book. And so that's not the kind of platform that we're trying to have. I say a lot that here in Wyoming, our tent as a Democratic Party is so big that on one side we have people who live in communes, and on the other side we have people who Massachusetts would consider conservative Republicans. And so we have to have guidelines as a state party and as county parties that cover that spread. Everyone who is falling under our banner has to be able to go door to door and stand behind the things we're saying. So we really need to narrow it down to those core principles, like Doug was saying. We need to narrow it down to the things that we most believe in. So at some point in the near future, we will be going from having our state platform, or our county platforms, to having a state platform. I believe every county gets to have 2 representatives on the state platform committee, which means I get to be in charge of a group of like 40-some people. So the more that we can get done at the county party level, the easier it will be on everyone at the state party level. So just when we're doing this county convention, be thinking about if someone stopped me in the grocery store and said, what are the 5 things that you believe in as a Democrat? Those things are the things that should go on our platform. So just wanted to make a plug for that, because I probably won't get another chance before we have our county convention.
You won't. It's coming up. We'll have the county convention before we have this next county party meeting.
Yes.
What day did you say that was again?
March 7th.
Because it wasn't on the...
No, I wanted to announce it to this group, out of respect to this group. I wanted to announce it to this group before you read it on the calendar and said, well, wait, I didn't hear about that.
Thank you for your courtesy.
I'm going to apologize a little bit in advance. It did not fully make the transition from Canva to PowerPoint. So some of the things that were in fact easy to read when I was making this are no longer easy to read. But I will also get the corrected version out to Ted so that he can send it out to everyone. But what this is supposed to be called, if you can see it, is 3 birds, 1 speech, efficiently getting your message out. So as you all might know, legislative session is really, really busy, really, really intense, and we have a lot of things to focus on. So pretty much every day, I'm sure all of you are getting text messages, emails, messages directly from your friends about this bill is coming up, this vote is coming up. Speak out on this, talk to this, call your legislator, write to your legislator. And you should deal with that all the time. But it gets a little bit overwhelming. And so one thing that I am encouraging everyone to do is to work smarter and not harder. So when you're doing these ways of contacting people, when you're doing these ways of getting your message out there, you can actually really use the same kind of basic guidelines for multiple different ways of getting your voice out there. So kind of the 3 main ones you get asked to do during the legislative session are testifying in front of a committee, writing to or calling your legislators, and writing a letter to the editor for your local paper. Those are kind of the 3 things that a lot of organizations are going to ask of you. And they all have some things in common that you can really apply to each type. You need to be identifying who you are and why your opinion matters. You need to be emphasizing your main points. You need to be keeping things short and sweet. And you need to be focusing on the story. My dad will say sometimes that as Democrats, we run for class president instead of prom queen. And then the prom queen wins the election. And so that's one of the things that we all have to work on, is making sure we're not just sharing facts and figures, we're sharing stories. Stories are what impact people, stories are what start to matter to people. And the great thing is you can really repurpose what you're working on for each of these situations. So when you're doing testimony, when you're doing a call or email to your legislator, and when you're doing a letter to the editor, you're going to have these elements in each piece. So testifying, you say thank you to the chairman. You tell him where you live. You tell him the connection to the issue. You go straight to your main point. I don't know how many of you have tried to testify, and at the start of it, you get told you'll have 3 minutes, and at the end of it, you get told you'll have 30 seconds. But that happens a lot, depending on how many people are testifying. They will shorten how much time everyone has. So you really need to be ready as soon as they say go. Tell them who you are and tell them what you are concerned about. So usually in testimony, you get between 1 and 3 minutes, which is roughly 100 to 300 words. I talk really fast, so it's usually more, but I need to slow down, so it should be less. Things that you want to make sure you're focusing on besides your main point in testimony is what is benefiting or harming Wyoming. You know, one of the things that when we're testifying in front of a committee, we're testifying to the people representing the whole state. So it's not just, this will hurt Cheyenne, though you can mention that, it's how will this hurt Wyoming, or how will this benefit Wyoming? What is it going to do to the whole state if they vote one way or another? Similar with a call or email to your legislator. You say where you are, who you are, where you're from, and your connection to the issue. Most of our legislators respond a lot better if you are from their district. It's not impossible to get their attention if they are from another district, but anytime I'm talking to anyone here from Cheyenne, I say, hi, my name is Lindsay Hanlon. I am a lifelong Cheyenne resident. These are the things I'm concerned about. So again, immediately say, I urge you to vote yes. I urge you to vote no. Get that main point out of the way. Calls, usually probably 30 seconds to a minute. Depends on how full their voicemail is and or how much time they will actually talk to you. And this is one where, especially because you're hopefully talking to your legislator, your personal stories matter a little bit more. This is the time where you say, this is how this is going to affect my family, or this is how this is going to affect my neighborhood, because that is ostensibly what they're supposed to care about, right? If they are your legislator, that is what they are caring about. In email particularly, you can ask for a response. You may or may not get one. I have been writing to my legislator since I was a teenager because I was a very cool child. And over the last 20-some years, the response rate has gotten lower and lower. So when I was growing up, it used to be that, you know, whether or not they agreed with me, whether they thought I was some dumb kid, they would respond to me and be like, thank you for your interest, or thank you for, you know, taking part in the process. And I think for the last 4 years, they just ghosted me. So you may or may not get a response, but it's not a problem to ask for a response. And then finally, you have your letter to the editor. And so this is where you kind of turn from just talking to your legislator or talking to a committee to talking to the community. So you can still be addressing a legislator, but you're also mostly addressing our community. So here, you don't need to explain who you are as much because your name will be right next to your letter. But you talk about your connection to the issue, and you talk about why you deserve to talk on the issue, right? So if you are talking about school funding, you might say, I'm a former educator. Or if you're talking about school funding, you might say, I'm a parent in the district. Or you might just say, I'm a concerned community member who thinks education is important. You talk about why you get to talk about this. Again, you really want to get to your main point within the first couple of sentences. A, because people's attention spans are short, and B, because the newspaper usually picks what they title your letter based on those first couple of sentences. So they will kind of pick out what they say and how they frame your letter based on your first couple of sentences. So if you're not getting to your point fast enough, your kind of title might get lost. People might not pay as much attention to your letter. The length is depending on the newspaper. Wyoming Tribune-Eagle, for example, accepts up to 350 words. And if possible, this is where you can tell like a little longer anecdote. So one that I wrote during COVID was about how when I was growing up on the ranch with my dad, you don't want to sit in the end of the truck because then you have to open and close the gates. And all the Republicans in Wyoming were acting like someone who was afraid to open and close the gate. They were trying to avoid as much responsibility as possible to take care of the place that they were living. So whenever possible, I bring up the fact that I am probably more of a cowboy than John Bear, and bring that into my experiences and my story. So.
You didn't have a sibling to put by the door?
Well, so normally I did. I'm a perennial middle schooler. I had a bigger sister. She got to do the gate all the time. But that is also how I like hit my head on the gun rack one time and needed like stitches. So it does have its dangers. So as an example, I decided to look at House Bill 10, which is Ann Lucas's obscenity bill, where she wants us to put all of the books in a naughty section and make sure that books that people, anyone in the community, anyone in the geographic area deems unacceptable can be taken out of the children's area so they are no longer available to children. And I can imagine that maybe working in our county library here. I don't know if any of you have been to the county libraries in other counties. The distance between the children's section and the adult section is about the width of this chair. And so the things that she is asking our school and our county libraries to do is just A, censorship, but B, entirely nonsensical. So I kind of pointed out where those different pieces I was talking about are. So this one is 120 words. That hopefully makes it about a minute. I start with my identification. Thank you, Chair. My name is Lindsay Hanlon, and I'm an educator and small business owner in Cheyenne. So that right away says, I get to talk about this because I'm an educator. I get to talk about this because I'm a productive member of our community. My main point is I urge you all to vote no on HB 10, and then I go into my details. Why do I think this? It is a clear instance of the government intruding on the rights of parents and families, and as public servants become the nannies of Wyoming's children. This bill would exile everything from our bodies ourselves to the Bible in our public and school libraries with the incredibly vague language of available to children. It is antithetical to Wyoming's proud culture as a live and let live state, and suggests the person who should be making choices for children is not the parents or trained librarians, but random pearl-clutching community members. I like snarky mic drops. Other people might do better with more friendly tones. I have a really hard time with that. So then we take that same basic concept and now we're turning it into a phone call. So now we're calling our legislator, presumably either getting them for a little bit of their time or leaving them a voicemail. So again, we start with our identification. My name is Lindsay Hanlon. I'm an educator and small business owner in your district. So now it's not just about why I deserve to talk about this topic, it's why you should listen to me. I'm one of your voters. I hit my main point again. I urge you to vote no on HB 10. Then I go into my details and it's still the same basic points, but it's said in a different way, so it can be said shorter. So I say there's a clear instance of the government intruding on the rights of parents and families, and as public servants become the nannies of Wyoming's children, your constituents want you to focus on the budget, not on culture war nonsense. The differences between that and the previous one, you don't have to thank the chair, you're not addressing multiple people. You are being specific about being constituent and then reintroducing the idea of their constituents. Your voters want this. All right, now you guys get to hear me read even more. So this is an email, so this is 174 words. So we're a little bit bigger than where we were on that speech. Obviously a lot bigger than where we are in the voicemail. So again, identification or introduction. So I live in Gary Brown's district, so mine would start, Dear Representative Brown. My name is Lindsay Hanlon, and I'm an educator and small business owner in your district. I accidentally included inclusive language for all people, so Gary Brown is now multiple people. I urge you all to vote no on HB 10. It is a clear instance of the government intruding on the rights of parents and families, and as public servants become the nannies of Wyoming's children. This bill would exile everything from our bodies ourselves to the Bible in our public and school libraries, with the incredibly vague language of available to children. The role of the library is to serve all patrons and all students, not to send people furtively scurrying to the back of the room behind a curtain for an illicit copy of Wicked or Let's Talk About It. Having spoken to many other members of your district, I can tell you that what your constituents want is a balanced budget, not a culture war crusade. Please focus on the things that really matter to the people of Wyoming. I would appreciate a response with your stance on the matter. Sincerely, Lindsay Hanlon. So again, differences, intro that fits the format, introducing myself to a particular legislator, I'm using more details and examples. I get a little bit more time to speak here. I have a more specific mention of constituents. I say, I've been talking to your other constituents. I'm saying, this is not just me. This is something that other people in your district care about. And then at the end, I ask for a response.
He won't send one.
He will not send one. I am not entirely, I'm not entirely certain that he can read everything that I'm sending him.
You could have stopped at read.
That's fair. So then, our bigger one is a letter to the editor. So I chronically push the limit on the word limit. I will write 355 words, and then have to figure out how many contractions I can insert so that it fits below it again. So I try, for the sake of all of your time, my ability to read, and the size of this screen, to cut it down more than I usually do, so it's 215 words. So, as I mentioned, I bring up every chance I can to talk about my family's ranch. So I say, growing up on my family ranch in Wyoming, I never expected to one day need to explain to my fellow citizens why government intrusion into the reading habits of myself and my family is actually bad. HB 10 is a clear instance of the government intruding on the rights of parents and families, and as a public servants become the nannies of Wyoming children. This bill would potentially exile everything from our bodies ourselves to the Bible and our public and school libraries with the incredibly vague language of available to children. The role of the library is to serve all patrons and all students, not to send people furtively scurrying to the bathroom behind a curtain for an illicit copy of Wicked or Let's Talk About It. The same children who grew up watching people preg-check cows or hearing their parents discuss stud fees do not suddenly need to be protected from descriptions or depictions of sex because they step into a building full of books. They need what they have always needed, access to information and open, honest relationships with their parents to discuss things that might disturb them. What the people of Wyoming want is a balanced budget, not a culture war crusade. Tell your legislators to vote no on HB 10. So, don't have to mention my name in this one, it is identified in the letter. I'm calling out those specific Wyoming kind of honestly cliche experiences, right? In the same way that Chuck Gray decided he had to be on a horse to announce his Secretary for State run. I mentioned that I grew up on a ranch, I have these common experiences with other ranch kids. And I also use the Wyoming experience to talk about the hypocrisy, right? Like, you know, most of my family members were in some form of FFA. They know how other horses get made. They know how these things happen. They don't need to be protected from that information. I appeal to parental responsibility. I talk about, this is not an issue about the books. This is an issue about your relationship with your kid. And then a really important part is at the end, I have a call to action for the readers. So if you're reading this letter, if you agree with me, this is what you should be doing next. So, say that you have done this, you have had your speech in front of your legislators, you have called them, you have emailed them, you have written a letter to the editor. Now what do? Now you amplify your message. So share links, copy and pastes, screenshots of things to your social media, or talk about what you've done with others. Dad had a really good moment in front of, I don't even remember what committee that was, where you got to ask Troy.
Oh, it was the Joint Revenue Committee.
Yeah. So Dad got away with asking the committee a question, which we're normally not supposed to do. And we were able to turn that into small clips that we could share on YouTube and share on Facebook and things like that. So you can, like, all of these legislative meetings are on YouTube. They're live streamed and then they're recorded. You can go find yourself talking and use like a quick internet program to cut out the part of you talking and share that everywhere. Be like, oh my God, look how cool I am. If the post is public and your legislator has socials, tag them in the post. If you were testifying in front of Gary Brown, tag Gary Brown. If you were writing a letter to Gary Brown, tag Gary Brown. Not only will that maybe get his attention more, but also it increases the number of people who are going to see that post. It goes more easily from just your neck of the woods to the Cheyenne neck of the woods. Encourage others to do the same stuff. The more of us that do this, the more volume we have, the more voice we have. And then do it all over again with another issue. The thing that I hear a lot is that, you know, this is all just pointless effort. They're not going to listen to us. They're not going to hear us. And there are a few reasons why we do that. We do this anyway. The biggest one is that they can't claim they are unopposed. They can't claim they have a mandate from all Wyoming people if we have shared publicly that 50 different people have emailed their legislators about an issue and are really ticked off. They don't get to say, I'm the voice of Wyoming, I'm the voice of my district, when there are all these other voices. In particular, with testimony in front of the legislature, it is especially important when there are members of the media either watching or in attendance, because if you are a good journalist, you can't make things up. And so if one of our good journalists is in any of our committee meetings, they can't create the counter-argument if there's no counter-argument there present testifying. So, if we're talking about HB 10 and Focus on the Family is there, and Moms for Liberty is there, and all these conservative groups are there, and we're not there, then the newspaper article is going to be about all of their arguments, and none of ours, because none of us were there to make that argument, none of us were there to get quoted by the newspaper, none of us were there to represent the other side, and the journalist can't just decide, oh, well, I'm pretty sure there's an opposition, so I'll just put something in there about some people say this. Again, good journalists, not all other journalists in Wyoming are all that good, so we also have to be careful, but your voice needs to get out there through various means. And to piggyback on something Ted was talking about earlier, if you have done all these things, you've made your voice heard, run for office. You're obviously a good speaker and writer. So that's a lot of it taken care of right there. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So on your email, you focused on one topic.
Yes.
Oh, I made the mistake.
Oh, it's okay. There's no one right way to do this. I usually go with one topic at a time, just so that I can make sure that that first sentence is a topic. But I have also done the thing of especially if there are bills on similar issues, like when there are anti-choice bills coming out, I will just list, please vote no on all of these dumb things, because they're all related, they're all on the same topic. All of my arguments are going to relate to all of them.
Lindsay and I did operator training together for quite a few years. One thing we learned in operator training that I think informs some of this is if you tell somebody one thing, they usually remember it. If you tell them three things, they don't remember any of it.
Yes.
Your comment, I guess, on if you were to write a letter to the editor or some other email or something that's all written, if you went around and got a whole bunch of signatures to add to the bottom of it, does that have more impact?
So it depends on the situation. One of the things that is hard about the legislative session is that everything happens so fast. So most of my stuff that I work on is kind of incident response stuff. Either I found out at the beginning of the session, this bill was going to come up. I planned a letter to the editor a little bit early, or I found out from my friend Jesse here that there is a bill about not being allowed to be arrested for drunk driving if you're riding a horse. So this is now a thing. Yeah, saddle's not steering wheel. So this is now a thing that I may have to look into, might have to send a message about, etc. If you have the chance and the capacity to get a lot of signatures, that definitely can help. We have in the past had note card or letter writing campaigns where we got a lot of stories and then delivered them to one of the legislators during session or right after session. Kind of like the petitions Dad's talking about doing, that can have a lot of effect. A lot just depends on your capacity and the capacity of the people in your group. The perfect is the enemy of the good and the finished. And so one of the things that I really do a lot of the time is, and it's hard for me because I'm an absolute perfectionist and very type A, but I say, the best thing I can do right here is this. The next best thing I am capable of is this. So it can have a lot of impact, but it depends on how much you're able to do with it. Anyone else?
I was interested how you got the opinion piece in Wildfile.
So that is called talking to everyone all the time and having connections. So I'm acquaintances with Tennessee Watson at Wildfile. I was on the Wyoming Tribune Eagle editorial board for quite some time. So I was able to meet a lot of reporters, but they also do just take submissions. So if you go to WildFile and you find one of their emails and you say, I have an idea for an op-ed, this is what I would like to do. It's kind of like a story pitch. So you say, I have this idea, I'd like to talk about this. Do you think I could turn this into an op-ed? And ideally they'll tell you like yes, or like send me 800 words and we'll see. But a lot of it just is about relationship building. You know, I became part of the editorial board partly because I wrote so many letters to the editor. And so when they were looking for a replacement for a board member, that board member suggested me because they knew that I wrote letters to the editor all the time. But especially WildFile is fairly open, and Brian Martin over at the Wyoming Tribune Eagle is also fairly open. So if you have a story idea, if you have a pitch, the biggest thing is to get it in as early as possible, because a lot of times they are scheduling op-eds out a couple weeks in advance because they have to kind of assign the space for each of them, and they have a few writers that just come in on rotation. But pretty much everyone who has a good opinion and has something to say, a lot of the newspapers here in Wyoming will give you the chance to say that.
This document you're working on, this is going to be on the website where we can get that.
Yeah, so I will fix it so that you can actually read all the parts that are in white text and then get it back to my dad. And if we might email it, I'm probably going to share it also with the state party, so they'll probably share it around. But it will be acceptable very soon.
We'll email it, and we can probably also, we can take this clip out of our monthly meeting and separate it, so you can look at the presentation and you don't have to look at all the stuff I said.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time.